All right, so want to go through a few bench basics in this video just so you have an idea of the proper way to set up and just a couple proper technique items to make sure you're doing the bench press as safely as you can, as well as efficiently as you can, because the more efficient you are, the more weight you'll be able to use and the more you'll be able to progress, and then obviously we want to be safe. So we'll start with the setup and talk about our feet and our back, because actually your legs and your back, despite the fact that this is a chest dominant movement, your legs and your back play a really big role in the overall execution of the movement. And then we'll move into your grip placement on the bar, and then finally just talk about the movement itself and how you want to move the bar. So we'll start with the setup, and you want to, obviously you're going to be sitting on the bench and laying back down, and I want to start focusing on your legs and your feet. You want to have your feet and your legs planted into the floor so that you have a sturdy base from which to push, because if you are moving the weight and your legs are loose or your feet are moving around or anything like that, you really actually risk injury in this movement. So we want to get back onto the bench and find a place where your feet are comfortable and where you can essentially push your feet into the floor and keep your legs sturdy. So that is the first part of the movement, is just finding a comfortable place for your feet to become the base for the movement. The second part is we want to have our shoulder blades retracted and kind of down for this movement, because if we have our back loose, that runs the risk of pushing the barbell forward and really throwing your shoulders into the movement, and then you can, really, if you're benching a decent amount of weight or even a light amount of weight, if the focus of the weight goes from your chest and your pecs into your shoulders, your delts are much smaller muscles than your pecs are, and to put all of the brunt of that weight on your delts is going to run the risk of injury. So we find a stable place for our feet. We create that base. When we're back on the, you can bring the camera forward. When you're back on the bench, you want to find a way to retract your shoulder blades so that you're kind of set now in a stable position. From that stable position, then we want to find a place for our grip where you don't want to be too narrow, you don't want to be too wide, because if you're too narrow, you're going to put a lot of the weight on your elbows and your triceps, and that's not the point of this movement. If we go too wide, you're going to put a lot of stress on the front of your shoulder and more stress than you need on your chest. So we want to find a place in the middle that is kind of just a standard width grip, and that standard width would be somewhere where your hand and your wrist are in line with your elbow. You want to kind of at the bottom of the movement have a 90-degree angle here. That's going to put you in the safest position to do this movement. So again, we lean back, we get onto the bench, we find a place for our feet where they can be stable into the floor, we retract our shoulder blades, we find that placement on the bar. For me, it's my pinkies on the rings, and these rings on the bar can really help you find the right place for your hand, and then use that as a reference point moving forward to have the same grip and develop your lift with that grip. And then finally, we're all in a position, we have a sturdy base. You're going to unrack the weight, and when you bring the weight down, you're going to want to bring it just below the pec line to about here. You don't want it too high up, because then you're going to put too much pressure on your shoulders and your chest, and you don't want it too low, because then you're not going to be able to push it back up. So you want it like just below your pecs, under your sternum, and then we push back up. So down to your sternum and back up. I hope that helps. If you have any further questions after watching this, feel free to get in touch with me. I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.